Josephine Bakhita was born around 1869 in the Darfur region of Sudan. Her early childhood was filled with joy, family, and culture. She stated, "I lived a very happy and carefree life without knowing what suffering was." But at the age of 7 or 8, her life changed forever when she was kidnapped by Arab slave traders. The trauma from the kidnapping was so severe that she forgot her own birth name. Her captors mockingly called her Bakhita, meaning the lucky one. Her tenure as a slave was horrific. For years, she was sold and resold. At one point, she was owned by a Turkish slave owner who was exceptionally cruel. Under his ownership, she suffered daily beatings and humiliation. Once, she was whipped so badly that she was unable to leave her bed for a month. In another instance, she was forced to undergo a brutal ritual where her skin was cut with a razor and the wounds rubbed with salt to leave permanent scarring. One time during this ritual, she suffered over 100 cuts with the blade. Josephine herself stated, "During all the years I stayed in that house, I do not recall a day that passed without some wound or other. When a wound from the whip began to heal, other blows would pour down on me. Things were so bad that Bakhita thought she was for sure going to die." But God had other plans for her because everything changed in 1883 when her Turkish master sold his slaves. She was bought by the Italian consul Callisto Lignani. Unlike her previous masters, the consul treated her with kindness, and for the first time since she was a child, Bakhita felt human again. After 2 years, the consul prepared to return to Italy. Lignani decided to bring Josephine with him. The two of them, along with a friend of his named August Micheli, made their way to the Sudanese port city of Suakim via camel. They stayed there for 2 years before heading to Italy in 1885. Lignani transferred ownership of Bakhita to Micheli's wife, Maria. She then went to stay with the Micheli family at their villa near Venice, where she nannied their 3 children. Eventually, the Michelis returned to Sudan. Since their original villa had already been sold, Bakhita and the Micheli's eldest daughter, Alice, needed a place to stay while waiting for a land deal to be finalized. At the urging of the Micheli's agent, Alice and Bakhita could stay with a group of nuns in Venice, and it is here that she first experienced Christ. Bakhita said, "Those holy mothers instructed me with heroic patience and introduced me to that God who from childhood I'd felt in my heart without knowing who he was." When Maria returned to take her daughter and Bakhita to Sudan, Bakhita refused, causing Maria to contact the Attorney General to intervene. In response, the Superior Mother of the Institute of Baptismal Candidates reached out to the Patriarch of Venice about Bakhita's problem. In 1889, an Italian court ruled that since slavery was abolished in Italy before Bakhita was even born, she was technically never a slave. This ruling gave her the keys to her own destiny, and she chose to stay with the sisters. She was then baptized, confirmed, and received the Eucharist soon after taking the name of Josephine Margaret Fortunatus, the Latinized version of Bakhita. 3 years later, Josephine took her vows and entered fully into the Canossians as a novice in 1896. She spent nearly the rest of her life in Schio at the convent. During her time there, she worked in the kitchens as a doorkeeper and spent a great deal of her time with the community. She was so well loved that she gained the nickname of Madre Moretta, or Black Mother. Her story and her ability to relate to others made her famous, and she was often a source of strength for the townspeople, particularly during the Second World War. People often felt protected with her near. In her final years, Josephine often struggled with memories of her past as a slave, but would often recover shortly after and return to her cheerful disposition. On Saturday, February 8, 1947, after one such episode, Josephine cried out in pain, "The chains are too tight. Loosen them a little, please." She recovered after someone asked her how she was doing on this Saturday. Josephine, knowing Saturday as the day dedicated to the Virgin Mary, lit up saying, "Yes, I am so happy, Our Lady, Our Lady." Those were her final words. Thousands attended her funeral, already declaring she was a saint. In her words, "If I were to meet those who kidnapped me, I would kneel and kiss their hands, because through them I came to know God." In the year 2000, Pope John Paul II declared her a saint and she was canonized. He declared, "Rejoice all of Africa, Bakhita has come back to you, the daughter of Sudan sold into slavery as a living piece of merchandise, and yet still free, free with the freedom of the saints." She is now known as the patron saint of Sudan, victims of human trafficking, survivors of violence, and those seeking spiritual freedom. In 2023, a sculpture near the town of Shio depicting Josephine freeing trafficking victims was built. Her feast day in the Roman Catholic Church is February 8th. With the ongoing persecution of Christians in Africa, I think it's important to look back throughout history to remember and reflect on the legacy of saints from Africa that endured horrific trials in their own time. These brave men and women faced adversity that many of us would think impossible to overcome. May they serve as an example to us when we are going through tough times in our lives. May we remember that no matter how difficult things on this earth seem to be, there is always hope and there is always a God who will see us through. Saint Josephine Bakhita, pray for us.